So our next speaker is Kathleen Jackson. She is one of the three directors of the Texas Water Development Board. Director Jackson is a registered professional engineer, and she serves as an appointee of Governor Greg Abbott to the Texas Water Development Board. The board is a state agency responsible for planning, developing, and conserving Texas's water resources. Director Jackson is a tireless public servant and is always working on behalf of Texas's water providers to ensure that we have water supply solutions now and in the future. She is a great source of information. She's an enthusiastic cheerleader and a wealth of information, and we're very glad that she's made time to join us here today. And with that, I will turn it over to Director Jackson. This is our first time handing controls over, so bear with us a second.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here today. I guess we're ready for the first slide. I did want to give a shout out to our amazing staff. They work tirelessly, they're dedicated, they are talented, and they have a real passion for what they do. And I know Kevin Kluge, Shay Luther, and John Sutton particularly have worked hard in the kind of the world of water conservation, and they also kind of helped and participated and coached me and briefed me on some of the information that we're going to present today. So appreciate everyone who is working so hard and moving forward with all the things that we know are so important. And Jennifer, just a big shout out to you. Thank you for your leadership. I think we all kind of have a passion for conservation, but you know, the first step is the science and the data and measuring it, and certainly the effort that your group has done in pulling all that information together and then putting together this outdoor summit to share it with everyone and to gather people's thoughts and ideas and bring focus to it is an amazing effort, and just appreciate the leadership that you've shown doing this today, and also kind of moving forward in all of the activities that we work together on. Next slide, please. The Texas Water Development Board, as you know, is not a regulatory agency. We exist, and I tell folks we basically have three functions. We are the data repository for all water data for Texas. And we are a bank. We have money to loan right here at home. You won't get a better interest rate anywhere than the Texas Water Development Board. We're responsible for the planning and also turning those planning into projects. So planning for tomorrow, but taking action today. And we can't engineer the project for you, but our folks have seen a lot. And so they can give you thoughts and ideas, because we know that getting the project scope really tight can also save communities money and help move important projects forward. And why do we do it all? These are our three children. And to me, it's about making sure that our children and our children's children have the water that we need. Next slide. Of course, we know that Texas is in perpetual drought, punctuated by times of flood, and things can change so quickly. So, you know, looking back in 2011, just about the whole state was in drought, and then fast forward to 2018, our reservoirs were full. So we are planning to make sure that we can accommodate and deal with drought. Next slide. The other thing that's happening in Texas, of course, is that people are coming to Texas every day. And depending on who you're talking to, it's anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 people, and nobody's bringing any water with them. Next slide. So how do we accommodate growth and also prepare for drought? And you know, I tell folks it's not one big answer, it's a lot of little answers. And at the very top of the list is conservation. I come from a background of working in manufacturing, and if I back in the day had gone to management and say I want to, you know, build a new operating unit or put in facilities to make a new product, the very first thing they would ask is, tell me how efficiently you're using the resources you already have. And so conservation is really about efficiency. And as Jennifer pointed out, conservation is a water supply. And of course, we know that theoretically, there's not one more molecule of water in the world today than when God created the earth. And so it's incumbent on us to be good stewards and to treat that water so that it can be used again and again. And of course, we're seeing across Texas, brackish desal, seawater desalination, aquifer storage and recovery, which reduces those evaporative losses. And then of course, the traditional sources of groundwater and surface water. Next slide. Certainly the poster child, I would think, of reuse, direct potable reuse, and later indirect potable reuse was the city of Wichita Falls. During the drought of 2011, Lake Arrowhead was extremely low. They were very fortunate in that they had a reverse osmosis facility that was treating the salty water from the Red River. And they were able to retool that and take their wastewater, treat it, and put it back into the front end of their water supply. Their long-term solution was a indirect potable reuse plant, which uses the environmental buffer like Arrowhead and reduces their overall water need through reuse. And of course, Wichita Falls, through their leadership, received a very high stewardship of a very high award from the EPA for their work in reuse and actually implementing this project, really kind of showing not just folks in Texas, but across the nation that a reuse project could work and it could be done. The John Bunker Sands Wetland Center for the North Texas Municipal Water District, of course, a shining example of being able to take water, treat it through the wetlands, and then pump it back 29 miles back up to Lake Lavon so that it can be used again and again. And of course, the added benefit of education and bringing school children in, and again, a demonstrated method of conservation and of reuse. Next slide. Within the Water Development Board, we are continuing to work virtually. And I think moving forward with water planning virtually, and just wanted to thank everyone who's been participating in that effort. Regency's regional water plan was approved a couple of weeks ago, Jennifer. And one of the things I think that you pointed out when we talked earlier was the activity that's happening really across the state within the regional water plans, and many of them including no more than 2 times per week watering as a water management strategy. And so there's a lot of movement on water conservation. From the draft 2021 regional water plans, time of day watering is a strategy for regions A, F, and H, twice a week for region C, K, and M, and then landscape conservation as a part of advanced conservation for regions L and M. Next slide, please. So planning for tomorrow, but of course, taking action today. And just wanted to highlight some of the successes from our 2019 Water Conservation Annual Reports. This is data that the Water Development Board has accumulated and is published. And what you will note here is that from the 2019 Water Conservation Annual Reports, of the 523 retail water systems reporting, 199 of them reported implementing 410 outdoor best management practices. And the chart says 416, but 6 of those are from wholesalers. The one most widely used was the prohibition on wasting water BMP, and that reported water savings was just over 12 billion gallons. The second most water savings reported was from park conservation BMP with about 11.5 billion gallons saved. So these are real savings resulting from these best management practices. And there's not really a number next to water efficient landscape programs, just because, not because there isn't a savings there, but just because it's kind of hard for them to estimate those and provide an estimate for the report. Next slide. I wanted to highlight our 2020 Raincatcher award winners. And I think it really kind of takes us back, if you'll go to the next slide, to on the focus, I think, that Jennifer mentioned earlier on outdoor watering, that conservation is a water supply, that it can be cost effective, that it's a great opportunity for savings, and that you can still achieve your objective. If it's outdoor watering, have a beautiful yard, or in the case of many of our Raincatcher award winners, being able to utilize that water in a number of different ways. The Upper Trinity Groundwater Conservation District partnered with the Parker County Livestock Improvement Association, and the district provided a $50,000 grant basically to collect rainwater that could be used during stock shows and rodeos for livestock. So the young people that come out there and show their animals would be able to utilize that in washing and in watering the livestock. But then during the summer months, the local fire departments can also use the water to fill the fire trucks. So, and of course, all of these young people coming out there and participating in the livestock shows see firsthand water conservation and how you can benefit from using rainwater harvesting. Anodyne Inc. Is an example of a rainwater harvesting system that was installed to replace potable water for use in industrial processing. And of course, we hear time and again that water is so pure, it actually helps to save them because additional money because they don't have to treat it. This system, they told us, would pay for itself in 7 years. So oftentimes we are really struggling with how can we go in and do things that we know in our heart we want to do, we know are right, that provide additional benefits, but at the same time they need to be economic. So again, just assuming a 3% annual water and wastewater rate increase, this system paid for itself in 7 years. The Austin Public Library, which is the picture that's to the bottom left, 85% potable water offset. The only fee they pay is for wastewater for their toilet flushing, and they're able to use the reclaimed water and collect about 43,000, using 43,000 square foot of roof space along with air conditioning condensate. So again, a great example and something that everybody that comes to the library is able to see and experience every day. Texas Tech University's home utility management system was also an award winner. The system's capital costs are about $20,000, but that's expected to be comparable to the accumulated utility cost. Again, kind of offsetting what we know people want to do, but also making it affordable. And what to me was so interesting about this project was not only having the facilities in place to measure the water usage, but also the work they're doing on behavior. So they are tracking and kind of modeling how people are responding to utilizing the rainwater and water conservation, and doing kind of what they call machine learning to actually model behavior and provide that research kind of moving forward again to design systems and to continue to promote water conservation. The next slide. The next set of award winners was Wimberley Independent School District with their One Water approach, which promotes management of all drinking water, wastewater, stormwater, gray water as a single source. The annual cost savings relative to standard construction and centralized water wastewater service is expected to be between $29,000 to $48,000 a year. The total savings over 30 years to be greater than $1 million. That's using 2018 dollars. But let me tell you that again, over 30 years estimated to be greater than $1 million. So again, showing that we can utilize rainwater, we can use a one water concept and still be very, very cost effective and also save money. The Duke residents, which is the at the bottom left, they really kind of had no other option. They didn't have access to water, and they were able to put in a system where their only source of potable water was available was from the rainwater, and actually utilize that to sustain and also irrigate their gardens. We did have an honorable mention this year, and this might be one of my favorite all-time award winners because it was something that they really didn't go out necessarily as part of the project to do conservation or to do a rainwater harvesting project, but it was something that as they kind of reached out and they had thoughts and ideas from those who were engaged, they incorporated it into their drainage projects. So they constructed 2 bioswales to control urban runoff, and it doesn't show it in this picture because it wasn't put up yet, but they've got some signage that's going to increase awareness about passive rainwater harvesting. And of course, this is near El Paso, so it's actually in the desert. So I just, great participation from people across Texas. And again, showing that, you know, conservation and rainwater harvesting can be, you know, not only something that, you know, we know in our heart we need to move forward to do, but it also can be economic. Next slide, please. Of course, the ultimate user of outdoor watering is agriculture, and the board has been extremely involved in agricultural water conservation since 1995. We've provided $100 million in grants and low interest loans through our agricultural water conservation program to promote metering, because of course we know that it's so important that you measure. If it's important enough to care about, it's important enough to meter and to measure. We've seen that there is kind of a movement towards recognizing the need for soil moisture analyzers getting better weather information and incorporating that with more efficient watering systems. So just those that we've kind of worked with and provided the funding to have reported 575,000 acre feet of water savings over the last 10 years. So what we know in Texas is that farmers are good stewards. The individual farmer can be up to 95% efficient. And so again, a great message, and I think great outcomes coming from best management practices for agricultural water conservation. Next slide, please. One of the real focus of the Water Development Board has been going across the state and doing our regional water loss audit and leak detection workshops. These workshops that are in these 2 pictures were held in Lubbock and Amarillo in March. And the audience are kind of like the boots on the ground folks. I mean, the water utility managers, the operators, the small system owners. And of course, all retail public utilities in Texas must file a water loss audit with the board every 5 years. We're coming up on that 5-year cycle for 2020, and it'll be due in May 1 of 2021. And of course, any retail public water utility that has an active financial obligation with the board has more than 3,000 connections is required to file a water loss audit annually. And to me, what's so exciting about hearing these audits is that, or attending these workshops and hearing from the folks who are not just presenting, but also in the classroom, is I think the diligence and the concern they have about getting their numbers accurate, knowing that that kind of serves as the basis for how they're making progress moving forward. But they're also incorporating and using this information to be able to take it to their leadership in their community, their city councils, and kind of demonstrate to them that by going in and upgrading their infrastructure or putting in metering system and being able to engage the public so that they are kind of tracking their water usage is actually saving their communities money. So I think a great job by staff, great engagement and participation across the state in these workshops. And again, kind of taking it to that next level, which is not just measuring it, but using that information to promote and to draw investment in those things that will reduce water usage and promote water conservation. Next slide. A big part of what the board does is make funding available to communities across our state. And with every new project, there are efficiencies that are generated because the equipment is new. We're keeping, if you will, if it's new infrastructure and transportation piping, you're keeping more of those water molecules inside the pipeline. If you're putting in new treatment facilities, they're much more energy efficient. And so, you know, for every investment that we make across the state, for every loan that goes forward and communities upgrade their wastewater treatment plant or their potable water treatment plant, when they go in and they upgrade their utility infrastructure, then they're putting in more efficient equipment, it's saving energy, and it's saving water. And of course, applicants that are requesting more than $500,000 must have an active water conservation plan on file. Next slide. So kind of the bottom line is, if you're improving infrastructure, then you're conserving water. So when you see new investment, kind of think of that. And of course, that's, I think in my mind, kind of a driver towards encouraging communities to kind of draw down that investment, invest in their infrastructure, and, if you will, conserve water. And again, that's a water supply. And I think one of the points that Jennifer made earlier, and this is a huge benefit, I think, that outdoor watering and water conservation brings, is that that need not to provide water during a peak time. And so again, as she noted, you design for peak loading to be able to meet your peak demand. And so to the extent that you have different sources that you can do outdoor watering at different times, it reduces your peak loading and reduces the overall need that you need for increased capacity for your infrastructure and for your water treatment plant facilities. Next slide, please. Of course, the Water Development Board is very proud to support the Water Conservation Advisory Council, and great work by a very committed group of people who get together, share their thoughts and ideas, and put together their recommended, they put together recommended outdoor water schedule BMP last year for inclusion in the board's BMP guide. This meeting is, that's pictured, is from March 10th, and that was the very last meeting that I was able to attend and see everyone in person, missing folks, and just kind of can't wait until we are able to get back together and kind of, again, see each other, talk face to face, and just kind of catch up. The Water Conservation Advisory Council has been meeting virtually, continuing on with their work, and really appreciate all the volunteers that serve on this council. Next slide, please. Just wanted to end by thanking all of our champions in water conservation. This is maybe one of my kind of absolute favorite pictures, because it has the champions that kind of came together after we implemented SWIFT. And, you know, we all, I think, in our hearts want to move forward and have projects that promote water conservation. And the Sierra Club kind of took the bull by the horns and put together their own workshops to share with folks the resources that were available through the SWIFT program that could help to upgrade infrastructure, that could promote water conservation, and kind of getting the word out. So not only sharing the benefits of water conservation, not only talking about the importance and the need and the growth throughout the state, and the need to continue to provide and focus in on water conservation as a water supply, but actually going in and putting together workshops to bring folks together and, again, move some of these projects forward. So again, planning for the future and turning these planning into projects. The last slide is bring you greetings from the other two members of our board. Peter Lake, of course, is our chairman. He serves in the finance slot. He's from Tyler, and doing a fantastic job, along with Brooke Pop. Has so much energy. She came from Glenn Hager's office. She has the business attorney background on the board. And then, of course, I serve in the engineering slot. We are not a regulatory agency. We exist to serve. We are all about continuous improvements. So to the extent that you have thoughts and ideas, please let us know. We want to hear from you. We want to kind of tune what we're doing as we go across the state and as we support communities to be, if you will, kind of the best that we can be. And again, we exist to be a resource for you. A big shout out again and a big thank you to Jennifer. I'm only wondering, you know, what is next? I mean, every time it seems like we turn around, your team is engaged, you're doing fantastic things, and you are, you know, not only kind of, again, kind of reaching us and kind of saying, hey, you know, we all want to do this. It's just, how do we get there? And the kind of activities that you're promoting, the data that you're pulling together really helps us to get where we all want to be. So thank you so much for having me. And Dustin, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much, Director Jackson. We had a couple questions. Can you, are you aware of any process of educating businesses regarding the rainwater harvesting awards or rainwater harvesting outreach?
Well, you know, we've had a number of businesses who have participated and actually have received the rainwater harvesting award. And, you know, sometimes when there are different kind of categories of businesses, particularly within, I would say, the ag community. I mean, they have kind of been tuned into rainwater harvesting for a long time, because that's oftentimes they utilize the rainwater to kind of mix up, if you will, the chemicals that they use in their production activities. And so having a very pure source of rainwater, and also not having to necessarily have the treatment facilities on board to treat that groundwater, is a huge savings and a huge benefit for them. So yeah. I would only say that, you know, the more we can get information out there, oftentimes it's about the messenger. And so we have some very impactful messengers, I think, who are probably in the audience today that are listening. So to the extent that you can share this with folks and let them know that this is, again, it's an opportunity that's not just available. And I think you make a very good point in this question. A lot of times people think about rainwater harvesting as something that's more, you know, for an individual residence, and that you know, and it is very simple. You can literally go out and put a barrel in and use it for your outdoor watering. But we're seeing more and more people recognizing that it can be a more comprehensive part of not just the residents, but also used for their businesses. So,
right. Well, great. We've got a lot of comments saying people appreciate the Raincatcher Award. So thank you so much for your time today. And that's all we have for questions today. So thank you again.
Thank you.